Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Hobby Chop Podcast, the podcast for the people. You have me, Big Ken. We have Zip and Tyler. Fellas, welcome. How we doing tonight?
Doing good, doing good. Can't wait to get into some of these topics for sure. For sure.
Doing good. It's a Tuesday already. Looking forward to the weekend.
Yeah. Well, we have a big weekend coming up.
That's right. We're going to Boston to get the cannolis at TD Garden.
Like cannolis.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
I'm looking forward to you schlepping my coffee for me.
If it's raining, I'm not going outside because I nearly caught hypothermia because you wanted iced coffee and it was like winter. So and it was pouring at Gillette. So yeah.
I forget. Was there a Dunkin' there? There was a Dunkin' right
At Gillette. Yeah, there was a
No, at TD.
There's a Dunkin'.
Oh, you know what? There's one inside. You're right.
Yeah, there's one. It's in the train terminal, right?
Beautiful aromas of the train terminal. Yes.
There you go.
It's beautiful.
There's a Starbucks on the out across the way too.
I'll be going there. I've been getting the non-dairy salted caramel cream cold brew. Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah. Are we being sponsored by Dunkin' now, or is that Dunkin' or is that Starbucks?
Should I wear my? I have the Dunk Kings. It's like a Dunk Kings custom Jason Tatum jersey. Should I wear that?
Maybe.
I'm just going to reserve judgment by your Starbucks coffee order that you just told the world. So.
Hey, listen, nope. Hey, it's actually my afternoon. I start with a black Nantucket pod in the morning, and then it's my afternoon delight. My little
For those of us who work from home, right? And we have the little pods in the coffee maker.
Oh yeah, yep.
Oh, Lord,
is this a card podcast?
It is. It's not a coffee podcast.
It's not a coffee podcast. Right. It's a card podcast.
Even though we're talking about coffee pods. All right, let's get into it. I'm sorry.
So like I was saying, we are at Causeway Show this weekend, and that's been a pretty big show, right? For the last couple of times, and now it's run by Card Vault, but now it's Card Vault by Tom Brady. So I don't know if we're going to see anything different up there, or it's going to look exactly the same.
I don't know. May or may not be avocado ice cream for sale as part of the TB12 method. So we'll see.
You can look for avocado ice cream. Anybody who's listening who wants to sell me cards, stop by the table. I'll buy them.
All right. Well, let's jump into the podcast. Right. So first topic up, WNBA versus NBA Prizm pricing. Now, before we get into the pricing, did you ever expect that the WNBA would be outselling NBA cards?
No, but it's a perfect storm when you have the most captivating athlete in the world, maybe right now with Caitlin Clark, and then you have this abysmal draft class in the NBA on top of everything. Mm-hmm. I think that's another part to it too. It's like, I think, what were we saying? Maybe Stephon Castle is a good prospect to look at or something like that. But like, I don't know who else you look at in there. You just hope for like a true gold of like a vet or something. Like, what are you looking to get in the NBA? I don't know. That could be just ignorance too. I just don't know.
I mean, you're not chasing a ton, right? Like you're chasing in the hobby, you're chasing like a case hit, veteran low number, some Castle, maybe some Wells. I mean, obviously the Richards and the SARs are, both have potential long-term upside. Like if you hit them, hold them. I mean, that's there. I mean, the crazy thing is the Dutch auction on the FOTL between the two. Right. WNBA, Ken, correct me. I think it bottomed out at 22 or 2,300.
2,200. Yeah.
2,200. And then NBA bottomed out at 700. Mm-hmm. First time it ever went below 1,000. And so, I mean, think about that. 3x WNBA did NBA FOTL.
Yeah. And I just before we went on, I went to Dave and Adams, and I got their FOTL price for the NBA was $899.95, and the WNBA FOTL is $29.99. So even still,
more than 3x.
Yep, it's more than 3x. Which you know, if you would have ever told me that, when 5 years ago, right, when I jumped back into the hobby and started, collecting and buying and selling a lot of female athletes, including older WNBA stuff, I would have never ever expected we would be sitting here talking about this right now. And even the just the regular hobby for the NBA is $609.95, and the WNBA is $1,099.
Yeah, that's wild.
I think it's also important with the NBA too to realize that a lot of these guys do take time to develop. Like I think you look back at former classes, like if we're just talking basketball too, and there's always people who emerge. Like the 2020-21, I think a lot of people were actually LaMelo was the guy when that released. And then obviously Ant-Man was the number one overall pick and carried some weight, but he's since gone way bigger than his release hype was.
Yeah.
And then you have guys like in that class that have that had some notoriety, but like Maxey and Halliburton also had like their spikes. And I was just looking, I don't know how old Rashard is, but like Sar is 19.
Yeah,
so like you just never know what it looks like in a few years. Whereas like everyone is like nuts over Clark. Like there's not a prospect like that right now.
Yeah. There's nobody outselling her right now, I don't think. And I know Wemby came into the NBA and he was all the rage. But at this point, I think she's clearly been outselling him. And now he's hurt too, right? So now he's hurt. His cards are going to have a little bit of a drop on it. And I was thinking today, thinking about him being hurt, he's out the rest of the season, and hypothetically, and I don't want to put anything out there in the universe, right? But hypothetically, if Caitlin were to get hurt, do you think it would affect her cards? Like it is affecting Wemby now, and like it affects most players when they get injured and they're going to be out for a period of time or out for the season?
I think it depends on the injury. I think a lot of people are worried about the Wemby injury because of his build, and then I've seen so many people mention Chris Bosh that it was it ended his career, but a lot of people failed to mention that it was an ongoing medical condition for Bosh, and it was towards the end of his career that kind of finished it. But also I think it's important to know that unless any of the people in the hobby have MD behind their name, you really shouldn't listen to what they have to say about the medical advice and what's going to happen. Like like it's all speculation. Like, I don't know, if Clark gets hurt, could it dampen her prices? Maybe a little bit, but like, it depends on the injury too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, even the off season, like even any other sport, when we go to the off season, there's a dip, right? There's a dip in cards. There's been zero dip in her cards. And you're celebrating today, getting a redemption card that's on its way back from Panini. That, and we were just talking about this yesterday, that those redemption cards were selling for like $3,500, right?
Yeah.
So there's been, and that was out of Select, and there's been no dip, even though that Prizm is out now too. So it's
the card, you're just for the audience, I have a redemption coming in. It's the technical it's a dual auto of Caitlin Clark and Kate Martin. If you don't know who Kate Martin is, that's her teammate at Iowa, who's also in the WNBA now. She just went on to the expansion team, so her name's been in the news, which has only helped. But the card sold back, I want to say, in like November for $3,500, and then there's a true gold of this card, so you don't know how many there are like that are going to come up for sale. So the true name is 2024 Panini WNBA Select Pairings Signatures Gold Prizm. So Yeah, and even with Prizm coming out, it's basically remained the same for the sale, which was interesting. I think that kind of speaks to the true gold of the card more so than anything.
Mhm.
But yeah, the mania is there, and my goal with it is to sell in this off-season bonanza as all these Clark prices are going crazy. Because could it be worth more in the future? Sure, but also it just seems like a really good time to sell her stuff with how hot the market is. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of touch on like all the questions, do I think it would hurt if she got hurt her card price if she got hurt? To an extent, I think it certainly would. As far as the Wimby stuff goes, I mean, yes, it is the Chris Bosh issue, but it's also the same issue that Brandon Ingram had, and he missed 19 games and returned the next season.
Yeah.
And his is more similar to the Wimby scenario where it's kind
Right.
of random. Um, and then overall with the NBA stuff is in all of the recent classes, you're right, Jordan, that somebody emerges, but you had a chase in every class, right? You had 2020, you had Ant-Man, you had LaMelo, then you had Paolo in 21, you had Cade in 22, Wimby in 23, and now you have no chase. That's really the ultimate
Yep.
problem with NBA is there's no chase at all. And then the other thing that really boosts the WNBA product is Panini inked up Caitlin Clark as somebody who would sign.
Yeah.
Right. That's what's important. Right. Like think about what the product does if she had signed with Fanatics. It's
Mm,
nothing like it is today because there's
yeah.
no autos.
Mm.
Right. That drives everything. It's why it's really think about if this year's 24 Prism football, if everybody signed in it the way they did in 2020, the boxes would be double what they are
Oh,
now.
it'd be crazy. Yeah, it'd be crazy.
Like I mean, they would be FOTL boxes would be $3,500.
Yeah.
Hobbies would be $2,000. Like if they all signed, but you got four of them or two of them that signed.
That brings up an interesting point then with a class like this, because you said FOTL and NBA Prism was $899.
Yeah, that's
That's
what it is selling
crazy.
now.
That's crazy low. Like, I'm not gonna do it. But is it at the point where that's like an interesting buy and hold of wax for that emergence? Or like, I mean, if someone has the cojones to do that, like that that's so like I mean, it's not cheap, but like relatively cheap for the product and the SKU of it's very cheap. Like that's crazy.
It would. I mean, it's you know, if you chose to do that, there's probably worse gambles.
Sure. Yeah.
Like because I mean, really, all you need is one guy to hit. Because most of the guys do sign in the class, so that's interesting, right? Fanatics doesn't have anybody inked up for as far as the autos go in this year's rookie class, really. So all you would need is one guy to kind of crush it, and then that box would double just instantly in the long term if there was one player who turned out to be a legitimate star.
Hmm.
So
Is there any way, and I don't watch basketball and I really don't follow it, but when we saw in 2022, like we thought that was more of a weak class with football, and then Mr. Irrelevant Purdy came out of the very last pick of the draft, and then he became the chase of that year. Are there players? Does that? I guess I should ask
Does
the
that
question.
happen? I
Does it
have a great
happen
example. Yeah.
in
I
the
have an
NBA?
awesome example. Nikola Jokic was drafted during a Taco Bell commercial in the second round. Okay.
yeah,
They didn't even show him get drafted. Taco Bell was playing.
yeah.
That man is a force.
Well,
And but like it's that's an example, right? Like so
yeah. Uh, I don't think there's um, anybody that is going to make the playoffs that could turn the product instantly, like as soon as a few months from now. But if they, if they, um, in next year, right? Like somebody could pop for sure and do that, and that would change the whole product. Like I just went back and looked up like what would be considered a um, probably one of the weaker classes in the last few years in their FOTL product, which would be the 2021
Yep, that's what I was thinking too.
NBA draft, which I actually turned Paolo and Cade around earlier and I
Oh,
misspoke.
okay.
So Paolo was 22, Cade was 21. So the 2021-2022 NBA Prizm FOTL is selling right now for around 2,400. And really, in that class, you're basically chasing
Cade, Green, Sengun,
Cade, Jalen Green, and Sengun. Probably that's basically what you're chasing. I mean, there's fringe guys like Kaminga, Scotty Barnes, Evan Mobley in there, but
yeah,
you're not chasing some. You're chasing one real superstar, maybe two stars, and that's FOTL still doing well over 2K no matter where you go. So that just shows you what the potential, to Jordan's point, as far as like a gamble or an investment type buy. There is opportunity. It doesn't take a lot for that box to double.
Another thing even worse to this class is I think the guy who was the front runner for the rookie of the year, who's also extremely popular, got hurt in Jared McCain. And before he went out, he was at 15.3 points per game, which that's pretty relevant for a rookie. And he was on, the Sixers franchise is notable for sure. Like, I mean, that could have been a guy people chased, and he has so many people love him with his social media and all of that. I think that's another blow to it on top, so
For sure.
And I think a lot of people see him as someone who could turn into a star or someone fairly relevant. He had some crazy offensive outputs at times in Philly. So,
and he's also a rookie in this box this year.
Yep.
So if I'm hearing it right, is there's really no chase right now, but probably the prospector mentality for me is like, should probably grab a couple of those and stick them in the closet, because they could 2 or 3x if one of these guys or somebody in this class really takes off.
From what I'm hearing from Tyler, I think Matas Buzelis is probably the next Jokic, from Tyler's words.
Oh yeah, that's my that's my words. Okay.
Is that the guy you got the rainbow on?
No, that's
that guy's not in this product.
No, that guy's going to be in a future draft class though, and I'm going to be excited about it. You do say Matas Buzelis, but he actually has been playing fairly well.
I know he's decent.
Yeah. Like he's been playing very well for.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I had a Prizm draft picks auto of him at Mohegan, and it was one of the first cards that sold really quickly.
Yeah, he's got some smoke around his name. Yeah.
All right. Well, keeping with somewhat of the NBA, so we know the NHL. They did something a little new this year. They replaced the All-Star game with the Four Nations tournament. So they just took, 4 teams, the 4 countries, put them together and played like a round robin. And for anybody who watched any of the games, especially the championship game with US and Canada, was just a phenomenal game. It was probably the first time for me seeing or watching, what should have been like an all-star game where people were, they were playing for country, and they were playing for keeps. I mean, just from when Canada and US played, and they were in Canada, and there was some booing during the anthem, and then the puck dropped 3 seconds in, there were gloves dropped, there were fists flying, they were fighting, right? And then they dropped the puck again, they're fighting again. There was probably 3 sets. I mean, there was a lot of tension and emotion, and I think people were these guys were playing probably harder during this Four Nations thing, that they've probably treating it more like a playoff game in at the end of the year than treating it like it's replacing an all-star game.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the NBA, is everybody, I've never watched an NBA All-Star game, but people have complained. That's all I've heard on my fantasy radio and podcast and anything I'm listening to. Everybody complaining about it's boring, nobody watches it. I don't know why they do it. Is this something that the NBA should follow suit and maybe put something similar together?
Tyler, you want to
It
answer that?
would be interesting, right? Because the NBA has tried multiple formats recently, right? We did the captains, picking teams. We've done, this year's new format, which was extra special. That's all I'll say about it. But I think the point is for probably the first time the NBA would have the ability to do something like this, because the international game is so strong and you have so many international stars at this point, right? Like you could have ran out. I mean, just top three
USA
of an
versus world.
international team, you'd run out Luka, Jokic, and Wemby. And then start adding players to that, to that team, and you could have a really strong, United States versus international all-star type game, and it would be very interesting because, and I think we saw that in the Olympics, right? The international teams were very competitive. France gave the United States a lot in the gold medal game, so I think that's something that the NBA certainly should explore, and I think it would, it might drum up, a better atmosphere for sure, so that you're pulling for a side versus really a player that you probably are doing in the many formats they've tried.
Yeah,
Giannis would be on that international side too, right? I didn't even mention Giannis. So
absolutely, yeah. The international team would be loaded, and I think the important thing about all of that is creating an environment that the players are actually going to care about. Because that's what it comes down to, another good example is for the MLB is whoever wins the All-Star game, the AL or NL will then get home field advantage in the World Series. Those are significant stakes.
Yeah. Gives them something to play for.
Right. There needs to be something really to play for. And I actually, Tyler, I love that idea of US versus international, or they could even do a round robin and try to break it up more. Cause like you could do US, you could like Canada could have a good team, and then you could do like Europe. And then I don't know what else you do.
Probably couldn't go past Europe, but I didn't even mention, like, on the international side, I did not even mention Shea, as Shea would be the point guard.
Right.
He's Canadian. And Embiid wouldn't be on, Embiid could play either place, but, most like, but if he was on the international team, he'd be coming off the bench.
That'd also be weird because he just won a gold medal with the USA, but
you're very weird.
It would be very weird, but I hear you.
Yeah. So like, I mean, you'd have a real, like, you really would. You would have a,
and then Tatum wouldn't play, right?
Yeah, right. Well, the last 6 MVPs, if you consider Embiid and international, have been won by international players.
Yeah.
And then an international player is going to win MVP again this year.
Yep.
So
I love the idea of making it something like that because I think people would be more passionate. I would watch it. Like the FIBA World Cup tournament is always entertaining to watch. I always love watching that. It's a good brand of basketball, in my opinion. So
yeah. Well, I mean, it would create a little bit of almost, I'll make 2 references, right? Not because it's pure country and like the FIFA World Cup, but it creates a little bit of that type. You could get some atmosphere there, or like the Ryder Cup in golf, right?
Electric.
It would create you could maybe create an atmosphere there. So
Yeah.
Like that would be interesting to me. But I mean, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think the NBA should learn from what the NHL tried and go somewhere, because nobody wants to watch the NBA All-Star game, especially when the overall product is actually struggling this year.
Yeah.
I know. And then like you have like, you know, I remember the slam dunk contest used to be awesome, like must see TV. And now it's just let's pull McClung out of the G League once a year to dominate, or not to dominate, because Castle was pretty great in dunk contest too. But I actually sold a McClung card this week for like double the last comp because of this, you know, this fixated dunk contest. So I shouldn't complain too much about it. But still, it's like it's just overall is down, and it's always frustrating because like you want to see the stars do it. Like I think everyone wanted to see LeBron do a dunk contest at some point, like throughout his career. And like the guy Ant-Man now, like Giannis, like there's so many guys you would just love to see. And I just want to find a way for them to do that. And I don't know what that is.
The one thing I will say about McClung is somebody should sign that guy to an NBA contract. He's won 3 dunk contests and he's your reigning G League MVP. He averaged 26 points a game in the G League, so he does a little more than just dunking the ball. And it's amazing that he can't get on a team. It's
the
wild.
Investment off of his jersey sales alone for a team would be worth it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting phenomenon that he isn't on an NBA roster. But anyway,
send him to the Celtics. I'll get a McClung jersey.
Yeah, we know you love the jerseys.
Yeah, listen. Yeah, it's fun.
All right. So the last thing I'll say on that was I know they announced that for the Winter Olympics next year that the NHL players the NHL is going to allow them to play in the Olympics next year. So that should be equally fun for anyone who likes to watch hockey or good hockey, especially at the Olympics like I do. So I think that's going to be. I'm happy to hear that. That's going to be exciting. I know I'm not. I'm talking to 2 guys that don't watch hockey at all. So I'm just saying I'm happy. I'm celebrating.
No, I mean honestly, I'll watch the internet. I love the international stuff. So like, regardless, there's something about it. You just can't.
Yeah.
You can't beat it. Like for example, I know you said World Cup, like soccer. Just to touch on this a little bit, like. I think almost anyone would tell you it's not the highest caliber of soccer that you're going to have, because the club teams in the Champions League, they play so much together, and it's just like it's not one country. They're not going to, so like that's going to be the highest level of soccer is going to be in the Champions League. But the passion you get in the World Cup, you just cannot beat it. And not to mention the World Cup final in 2022, like in this last one with France and Argentina, may have been the most amazing game I've ever watched in my life.
Yeah. There's nothing greater. There's nothing. Sorry to interrupt, but there's nothing greater to watch somebody play for their country.
Oh yeah.
Right. There's just something about that. And I think we've grown up on that, and it's just been instilled on us, when your country's playing, it's like, and then you see the players who are just giving everything they've got to play for their own country. It's exciting.
Yeah, and I don't know, like I know Ken, I know you're a big women's soccer fan. Did you guys both watch that World Cup?
Yeah, no.
Tyler, you saw the final?
I
did. That's the thing. It's like you can't miss that game. Like I don't know if I've ever missed a World Cup final game that I've been alive for. There's just something about it, And then 2026 coming to the US, like. Yeah. I would love to catch a World Cup game just to feel that atmosphere, because when I was little, I saw Messi play for Barcelona against the New York City Red Bulls at MetLife. Create like such a different worldly environment than American sports, and it's just I don't know. Those environments you live for as a fan, So,
and those games will be spread out across the U.S. in like
pretty sure it's across North America. I think it's Canada, U.S., and Mexico, I believe. Yeah.
So major cities will be.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I'm like pretty sure Foxborough and or MetLife. I think MetLife. I think MetLife is the final. It's Met.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
it is. I
Yeah.
believe it. I'm pretty positive it is.
That's insane.
That's crazy. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into some listener questions.
Alrighty. I don't think we have a ton of listener questions this week. But let me pull them up and see what we got. Alrighty. Yeah, I think there's only 4 listener questions this week. Matt Ryan, how often at a local show have you been stopped in your tracks and seen a PC card you've been after for a long time that maybe hasn't popped up on eBay or online? The cards that collect I'm sorry. He's saying the cards that he collects are ghosts, and he rarely sees them in the wild, but he still has a fun time walking shelf floors every now and then for the chase.
So the card he collects, they are like ghosts that he never sees them, or they are
Yep.
ghosts,
Yes,
like Casper.
yeah, no.
I tell you what, I go to every show and I have a number of sets that I'm trying to complete. And every time I go to a show, I always think, is today going to be the day I'm going to find one of those cards to fit into probably like a lot of what he's saying, those finding one of those ghosts. And I have enough people out there that know what the sets I'm trying to put together. You know, like the Hunger Games, the on card, there was a 10 card set and I have 5 of those, and it's just so hard. I mean, you know, they're out there, but they never come up on eBay. They never come up on any of these other auctions. I never see them at shows. So when he says that, so for me, rarely do I get stopped in my tracks that and see a card that, and I do a lot of shows. I'm at shows every weekend.
Did that happen Sunday? Though, Norwalk?
To who?
You. The out of 149.
Well, I mean, that's not going to be a PC card, but and that's not a card I've been looking for. That, you know, and just so you, the card I showed on my on Sunday's episode, the Mahomes rookie blue wave to 149, that walked up to a table that it wasn't even my table. I was just resting at Rich Zwittlebug cards table, and the guy was selling cards, and Rich passed it to me, and you know, I bought the card, but
yeah. You just don't see it. It's very small. Like the
yeah.
total graded population is really small.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's only numbered to 149, right?
Right. So you know,
and there's a number of collectors out there that just put those in their closet, and they never see the light of day.
I just assumed it was going. We will never see it again. It will go in the Mahomes PC collection for Ken.
Let me take a guess at what Ken would do with that card. If it's not regular inventory, it's going to be major trade bait to move into something that you like more of Mahomes, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I have a couple bigger Mahomes cards I would like to be in.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what I'll say about that right now.
Yeah.
So
it'll be a nice stepping stone, that card.
Absolutely. And then
honestly, and I'm going to throw that in too. And Tyler, I think you brought that up, but for whatever they were thinking that year with him, some of those pictures of him they're just so unappealing to see this guy like halfway across the field, like he's getting ready to throw a ball. The cards are so unappealing, where then you see some other cards where it's like right up close that are just so much more, you know, appealing to look at.
I think we have the extra time tonight, and we should just on the fly add this into the show. Let's talk about how bad Prizm really is. Let's do it. Let's get this out here. Let's spend like 5 minutes. We don't have a ton of questions. I'll start. Prizm used to be a dirt cheap low end product. The QC is never really that good. The images are rarely good, and the designs are hideous. Select used to be so nice, and then they killed it with retail. But if I had to pick based off of how the cards look, I know where I would choose immediately, and it is Select. I feel like if you're not going to be just driven into like what the market commands and things like that, I think just if you took someone who has never seen these products and asked them, which maybe we could do, I would be shocked if Select wasn't the choice. That's all I got to say about that. Quoting Forrest Gump.
Are you going back to 2017 now? Are we still talking Mahomes? Or are you just talking about Select in general?
I'm talking about Prizm and Select in general. Yeah.
Okay.
Just the aesthetics of what Prizm is versus, and Select doesn't even need to be brought up. I just see that as a flagship Panini Chromium product because I think for the most part, Optic looks better than Prizm too. So,
yeah, listen, I just like all the Prizm designs. I think they're not eye appealing cards ever. The photography is not good typically, which is interesting. If we're talking like Mahomes, I'd much rather own the optic card, which is a better visual, or the field level Select. I think the key is, to Jordan's point with that, is Select. Select did get killed with the retail because then it introduced all of these variations and all of these non-numbered parallels and all of this wild stuff that's out there because of retail today. But when it was hobby only, it was really a better product completely. But yeah, and you go back and look at like some of the basketball designs, like the Jokic card, the 14-15 card. Like, it's such a hideous card, but it's his most desirable rookie card because
it's like a borderless border.
It's the only card that is actually, he has it in the Donruss, right? Like, I think that's about the only rookie cards he has. There's probably a couple more out there that I'm just not thinking of.
He's got Select. He's got Select. He's got
okay.
He's got NT, not NT patch autos, just autos.
Yeah, they're just I know, like, even the like on the Donruss, right? The Donruss paper is really rare because he's a second round pick and they just didn't print many copies.
I actually have that at PSA right now.
Yeah, so like that's and PSA 10 does like a crazy number for a paper card.
Like 300 or 400. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just an interesting dynamic. But yeah, Prizm, I just not a fan in general of the photography, the design, the quality control always seems to be hit or miss. It's either everything's perfect and everything gems, or it's just in the total toilet. That's pretty much the two results you get out of Prizm quality control. And for me, like, being back in the hobby fairly recently, like, I'm just forced into Prizm. Like, I don't get a choice. So I'm to be honest with you, I'm very much looking forward to the license change and us seeing Topps Chrome basketball, Topps Chrome football, because I think the designs will be phenomenal.
And they'll grade better for everyone who cares about that when we talk about it. And the business aspect of it, you're going to be able to grade those cards so much better.
Well, the other piece that's important here is when we get back to Topps Chrome, this is the other thing I hate about Prizm. Why is everything a sticker auto? It's your flagship product, and I get gold out of 10 with a sticker.
Yeah.
Ken knows this. At one point last year, I had Jamar Chase Gold Disco Prizm rookie out of 10 auto, and it's a sticker, and it just drives me absolutely nuts because he has a really great rookie auto, and that on card would just be so much different and so much better. And that's the one thing we will get with Topps Chrome, right? Is we will get on card autos, which will be a massive improvement. And I'll get off the Prizm beat down train, but that's I just don't like Prizm. So
yeah. What is your favorite set?
Just aesthetics, just how it looks.
Probably Select field level. Like, I think you got to qualify. So you got to qualify it with field level because
I agree.
The concourse pictures. Like if I'm not doing anything that where it's a consistent picture, I'll just choose optic because the visual and optic is better.
Yeah.
You know, the concourse version of select is kind of garbage a little bit at times too, but you know, I'll just take optic. Like if I've just got to choose one that I know is consistent across the board, just give me optic. It's always a good photo.
Yeah. And I agree 100%.
I was gonna say, Tyler, exactly what you said. I'm spot on with overall optic, but if you have to break it down to like tier and select the field level courts, I love it, especially with the parallels. It's great. Ken, do you have anything else you'd like to add about how bad Prizm is?
No, I mean, from a grading standpoint, you know, it's just he's getting beat up all the time on it, you know, and I get so excited when I get these cards, and I you know, I just got 4 cards from Panini that were redemptions that I just been waiting on, and they just finally showed up, and the cards are just not gradable. And I just say to myself, like, who's looking at this card when they put it in the package to send? And did they say, oh my God, like we all have a job, and like our quality control at a job, and what we're thinking and what we want to do, right? And you think somebody would look at this card and be like, man, how could we send this card? This guy waited 2 years or a year and a half for this card. How can we send this card to this guy? Don't we have a better version of this that we can, you know, anything, or like fix something up, or tell them it's going to be a little while longer, and not just throw this stuff in a package and send them and just think that everybody's going to be happy what they get.
Yeah,
you get what you get, and you don't get upset.
Yeah, it's just I mean, I just can't imagine. I just can't imagine people that work for the company, and a company running a company that way, that just don't care, you know, what they're sending out to people, because it's a reflection of them. You know, it's like I have a business, and I go out and I work at people. You know, I go to work on people's computers, right? What I'm doing there. It's important to me, you know, to what I'm doing. And I would think that if I was the owner of this company, I would say, hey, let's try to do things right for the people.
I'm pretty sure Beckett actually oversees the QC department for Panini. I think that's that. So I think that makes sense. It's pretty much on spot on.
Yeah. The one thing that I'm going to be interested in, while just to close out this subject, is another Panini product that I struggle with on or really 2 products on the photography on, is if you really break it down, think about it, the picture they put on National Treasures or Flawless kind of sucks. Like the patches and the autos are pretty cool, but they always put kind of halfway silly pictures. And if I think about like what Topps does with Topps Dynasty or Diamond Icons or something like that, like they actually put some time into the way they decide to put the picture on the card in addition to the patch. So I'm really looking forward to what turns out to be the version of Flawless or NT in the Fanatics world. I'm not sure what that's going to end up being yet, exactly which one will catch on.
So I would have to imagine it's going to be something spectacular, though.
I can actually segue this perfectly right now.
Okay.
I can't wait for the new licenses with Stadium Club, and those are, like, in my opinion, undisputed the best images just overall for sets, like just Stadium Club Chrome. And for my ghost card is the 2022 Stadium Club David Ortiz auto. It's after the Boston bombings, and he did the speech, "This is our effing city" speech, and that's like the number one card I want, and I can never find it's not there. Not even for an astronomically high price. It's not on eBay. I can never find it. Hopefully, I mean, we should be in a pretty good place. Maybe I'll see it this weekend. I don't know. But I'm going to be pretty picky about the one I get, because there's a couple of variations of it and stuff. But the main thing I want of that card is I do want it in a PSA 10, just because that's kind of OCD about that. All right, let's move along to our friend Cyrus. Question outside of the card world. ... You got a long road trip. Who's your go-to artist for music to kick the drive off right?
Well, if you know me, I've been a music guy my whole life, but lately I've just been all content consuming when I'm driving. But when I do go to the music, it's always the boss, right?
All right.
I could do 18 or 20 hours and never repeat a song with him. So
Fair enough. How about you, Tyler?
I'm probably the outlier here. I'm a country music guy. Like, give me, I will listen to pretty much anything. But that's probably where I'm going. If I'm going, I don't know if I don't have anybody particular that I would go to every time, but if I'm going outside of that world, I'll go with some 90s alternative. That's kind of my other area
Okay.
that I fall into.
Yeah,
So
no, my go-to is the Red Hot Chili Peppers all day. All day.
I
That's
could get
my
on
go.
board with that.
I was gonna say you said that. I was like, oh, what's cool about them is like you can have music from the the early 80s to modern day. And like that's it's pretty interesting with them. But I love the Chili Peppers. That's my go-to. His second question.
let me just add to that.
Uh-oh.
During football season, I figured out how to watch Red Zone, in the car, through my phone on the speakers. So when I'm traveling in the fall or during football season, I try to do it on a Sunday, so I can do. If I've got 7 hours, right, I could get 7 hours of Red Zone nonstop.
7 hours of uninterrupted football.
And I'll add a quick statement after that. Kids, do not watch Red Zone while you're driving when you get your license. Leave that up to professionals such as Ken.
If you want to see a man screaming at a steering wheel going down the highway. Football question though. Who do you guys think the Patriots will draft with their upcoming draft pick? Side note, love the pod and love what you guys are doing. Keep up the work. Shout out to you, Cyrus, for the questions always and our transaction at EC3Con. I lost a coin flip to him actually. It was for a 2019 National Treasures Otani booklet patch autograph. But
Nice.
good guy. Who do you think the Pats will draft? I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know. I personally don't know. I'm a Dolphins fan, and there's a lot to be depressed about in their own right there. So anyone who has an idea on that.
I mean, what's the Pats have the fourth pick, right?
Let's pull it up here. Obviously we're clearly huge Patriot fans here.
Oh yeah, it's the fourth. I think it was the first, and then it went to third, and then fourth. Right?
Yeah, it's fourth pick. I mean, I gotta imagine like they're going to take an offensive lineman. You draft Drake May, you're trying to find ways to protect him. And what's the kid out of LSU? Will Campbell. It's probably the number one offensive tackle, number one offensive lineman on the board.
If you did that off the fly, that's pretty impressive because that's what Google brought up as that name. So
yeah, I mean that's what I'd have to think. I mean, if you think about it, you got Drake May, you're trying to protect him, right? So
yeah,
that's probably where you're at.
The question I have is what happens if somehow Travis Hunter slides to you at 4?
Well,
is that an undeniable talent?
It really depends on how they want to use him, right? I mean, I think he's probably going to be whoever drafts him is probably going to want to draft him as a defensive player, and then possibly create some offensive plays for him. But I think for the Patriots, that's probably not what they need. So even though you would think he would be a good fit there, I really don't think he's a good fit there.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he's there at 4, right? Because I mean, let's think about it, right? So Cam Ward's going to go probably 1 or 2. I would say Tennessee will trade out of the 1 would be my guess, and then so that Sanders is going to go because the only reason Sanders isn't going to the Giants is he's basically made it known he doesn't want to go to the Giants. So that's if the Titans trade out of the 1, like Sanders and Ward are going to go, and then I don't know how the Giants would pass on Abdul Carter at that point. So then you could be sitting there with Travis Hunter at 4,
and then it makes it a difficult decision. I mean, right? So
yeah, it'd be really interesting. But I mean, I would think just knowing the organization and Vrabel, like, you know, you're going to either protect the quarterback or you're going to get back to your right ways on defense. And the best defensive player in the draft is Carter. It's not Travis Hunter. So,
Yeah.
I
And
would
I
say
think
it'd be one of
I
those
think
two guys.
he likes to run the ball too.
Yes.
And having a solid offensive, lineman and offensive tackle to, open holes as well as protect your quarterback. So
Yeah, because the I don't see how the Giants would pass. Like if somebody trades up into the 1, I don't see how anybody passes on the 2 quarterbacks and Carter at that point. So
Yeah, if you're trading up, it's for the QB.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
good.
Last question from Anthony Ortega. With all the hype on...
Hey, hold on. My man Anthony Ortega, military breaker.
Okay.
Shout out to your service, brother.
Yeah, shout out to you, Anthony. With all the hype on modern, ultra modern cards, what are some good affordable hobby box chases for older years and sports? And then in parentheses, not the 2000 Brady year, obviously. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Good question.
So clearly we're going to go 1986 Fleer. No. Yeah, no. Affordable. That's relative. So what do we want to kind of make for a threshold for this? What is...
affordable is really the key word here, because there's no secret to any of those years when you're looking back. So
maybe 2024 NBA FOTL.
There you go. Buy it and save it.
Yeah.
You go look back, and even with the WNBA now, right? You can't even go back and buy earlier Prizm years of certain players that you're trying to get on, because I think people are jumping onto that bandwagon too. They're figuring out this is a sport that's going to continue to climb, and they want to go back. A lot of people are going back to buy trying to buy the GOATs, right? The earlier players, and just buy them and put them away. So when we're talking about, like, when I saw this question, I was thinking about it. I would probably want to buy those players right now, right? Yeah. Go back and buy the early Diana Taurasi or the Sue Bird.
I think Taurasi just retired like today.
Yeah.
Oh, she did. I didn't see that. I felt it was coming. Yeah. But to buy those players, because buying them in a PSA, it's hard to get them in a PSA 10 or a gem, whatever you want to have it graded as, but it's affordable to go out and buy them there. Now, I know personally that I've graded a ton of cards and I didn't get many 10s, but then the 10s I did get, and I looked at the values of them, I said, wow, that's pretty low compared to thinking that they're a GOAT in their sport. So
I think something that could be interesting, and this is just popping in my head, so take that for what it's worth. Some of like the early teen, mid-teen Panini basketball years, there's live Kobe autos. So that could be interesting as a chase, as a chase. So maybe you find one of those classes that you want to take a shot at, and then you could go try to chase a Kobe auto. I think that could be kind of unique, especially like a really like upside hit, obviously. You know what I mean? So that's something to consider. Mm-hmm. Or was it, Tyler, and I know you're going to know this, that's why I'm saying that, the first year of Kabooms, what is that? Excalibur?
Yeah, Excalibur.
What
2013 Excalibur, right?
What I wonder what those boxes do. Are they outrageous because of that? I feel like that could be a fun chase too. If we're talking chase, right? Like, hey, Chase, you're not going to hit it, but you could.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So, I was kind of thinking, affordable probably, because if you're going back and ripping anything that has potential upside value, right, where an established player or set of players is in there, I just put affordable as like under $1,000, right? Like in my brain when I was thinking about it. You're not going out and dropping $3 or $4 grand on something, because if that's your goal, you're trying to hit, a card that's big. If you're truly trying to rip something, and I would almost lean in the baseball world, like, which is probably a little bit different direction, but like go back to like 2011 Bowman Chrome or something like that, which you could probably get in that $700 to $1,000 range, and you have Mike Trout, you have Bryce Harper, things like that. Bryce Harper prospect cards, Mike Trout rookie cards. I think Freddie Freeman's probably, I think, in the 2011 class too. Yeah, he is. So I mean, that would be kind of an outside the box way to think about it, because you can also hit some cool like veteran autos. That's one of the advantages to baseball, is you can hit autos that have some relevance that aren't rookies.
So
that's where I would probably lean. But the Excalibur is kind of a cool thought around it. Like,
update on that. It wasn't Excalibur. Do you know what it was? It's even weirder. I'll be amazed if you get this. Don't look it up.
It's not Excalibur?
Nope.
So what was Excalibur? 2014 Kabooms then?
The 2013 was something called Innovation Basketball.
Oh, really?
And to be fair, the last 3 sales that I'm seeing on hobby boxes of those are sealed, right? Are $6.99, $7.25, and $5.31, which I think could actually kind of fall into that for
yeah.
You're talking first year Kaboom. Some of those are massive cards.
Well, and just to add to that, where we were originally thinking Excalibur, because I just went and looked it up, because that's 2014, because that's also pretty. Some of those are massive.
Second year.
On right now, I can get one from Blowout Cards for $684 for a hobby for Excalibur. Kind of makes me want to buy one right now. Not gonna lie, I'm almost ready to click buy.
Yeah, Innovation, was that like a one-off? I've never I have
no clue.
Because I went to look up the slab, I went to look one up and it said Innovation. I was like, what is that? So at that price point for the potential upside, I mean, I think that might be a decent product. I think the issue with it is trying to find it. The box.
Yes. So crazy enough, moving off 13 but going to 14, Blowout actually has a case of 14-15 Excalibur sealed available.
What's it? What is that?
7,700.
And were you guaranteed a Kaboom though? Then I
have no clue if I would assume it would still be considered a case hit, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool. Like, that's, yeah. Yeah, that's a great question though, because it's
that made us think. I didn't know Panini Innovation was a product. So look at that.
Yeah, you can go in just so many different ways with it, right? Like,
baseball. There's so many sneaky ones. You're so right.
Yeah, like, I mean, you can even get into like 2015, right? That's the Vlad year, probably, right? Like,
was he 15 or 16?
So somewhere in that range, right? So you've got those guys. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you could do with baseball that's relatively affordable.
Yeah, or you go back to some of those cool, like, was it like Sweet Spot has some cool cards?
Yeah, Sweet Spot's really cool. What's what was the football upper deck that had the helmet, the helmet relic with the auto on the helmet? It was
I don't know. That sounds cool though.
And
I don't know prices, but any of those old like SP basketball are really cool. So
yeah, it's sweet. It was Sweet Spot. That's what I'm thinking of for football as well.
Yeah, Sweet Spot is pretty cool.
Yeah, Sweet Spot's really cool. Like, that would be a lot of cool stuff. And then if you're gonna, you could go back and you can buy like a late '90s Skybox hobby box for in the $500, $600, $700 range. I mean, just know when you're buying that box, right? Like, there's a few cards you could hit. There's chances to cards to be bricked and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's always the gamble with that. So I'd probably lean towards something that, was a little more modern. If I'm going to rip something,
and that's what's so cool about the hobby too, is because like, look at us, like we're in this all the time and we're just chatting off of that question and discovering these sort of things for us. I'm sure listeners probably knew, they're probably screaming, it's Panini innovation, but like, I didn't know. And then it just creates that rabbit hole of like, you find more and more things, and that's how things become huge. Like in 10 years, what is like the next big thing going to be? Like, I feel like right now the craze is on gold prisms and finites, right? Like, what is it going to be in 10 years? I don't from this era when we look back, I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be anything. So, yeah.
Great question.
So is that it? Are we all set?
I think that's all she wrote. An hour on the dot. That's
Yeah,
pretty good.
I know. So our people who wanted us to not go as long,
Wrap it up.
Yeah, we're doing that for them tonight.
You asked, we listen.
What'd you say? It's the podcast for the people.
It is the podcast for the people. We're here to please everybody all at once.
Oh yeah.
All right, fellas. So we've got Causeway this weekend. So if anybody is going to Causeway, definitely come find us. We'll be up in the middle section, in the C section, in the C tables. So
come find me with a laptop and ready to buy your cards.
there you
Bring
go.
them on.
Yeah, shipping up to Boston. Yep. I'll be meeting you at the Cracker Barrel at the crack of dawn.
There you go.
All right.
All right. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Fellas, have a good night.
Thanks.
See ya.
Take care.